After a speech he gave in support of Second Amendment rights before the Greensboro City Council went viral, Mark Robinson was catapulted from life as a factory worker all the way to becoming the first black lieutenant governor of North Carolina. But his story is much more than that, which he chronicles in his first book, We Are the Majority. It's set to come out on September 13th. Tony Perkins is one of the endorsers of that book, but the author is joining me now, North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson. Mr. Lieutenant Governor, thanks for coming by today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, your book is titled We Are the Majority. Where did that title come from, and what are you referring to when you say we?
Well, originally this book was titled, the manuscript was titled, I Am the Majority, but we felt like that was just a little bit too simplistic. That was the line that I said in the speech that I gave at the Greensboro City Council, but we wanted to be a little more inclusive, so to speak, with this, and a little more expressive with the title. We feel like that I Am the Majority moniker was sent out for folks who feel like they're part of the law-abiding majority that gets up every day, goes to work, works hard, tries to get it right. And it just seems like they just continue to get browbeat by their government. And so we changed it to We Are the Majority because we feel like it's more expressive of the actual sentiment.
Now, you really were launched onto a national stage by that speech that you gave, and that was in the context of gun rights. And you were frustrated that every time someone did something terrible with a gun, it seemed that political powers would go after people who don't break the law. But since then, your platform has expanded. Do you still feel that the challenges and the emotions that you felt that day remain?
Absolutely, we still see it today, even on a worse scale. I mean, you look across the country and you see how criminals now are being so handled with kid gloves. You know, we have places where you can't be arrested for shoplifting unless you steal more than $900. But at the same time, you have all this talk of restricting the constitutional rights of law-abiding citizens up to a complete repeal of our Second Amendment. And so the pressure is still on the average, ordinary American citizen that again, that taxpayer that's footing the bill for everything, but then when things go wrong, they're always the first one taxed and last one considered. So I think a lot of that frustration is there for a lot of Americans, and a lot of it is showing it at not only at the ballot box, but also in political participation.
We're talking to North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson. And your book opens describing your child, tells a lot of your story. And you describe a self-described rat-infested Greensboro home. You are now the first black lieutenant governor in North Carolina history. What do you hope that other people will learn from your journey?
You know, I think what I really hope is it will continue to strengthen not the notion, but the absolute fact that in America, it is not about where you start. It's about the possibilities that you have laid out in front of you. The left would tell you that I have every strike against me and had every strike against me from the moment I was born, or actually from the moment I was conceived. Number 9 of 10 children born into an extremely poor family in the Deep South, black, alcoholic father, uneducated mother. There's no way that I could succeed to this level, and we have. And the reason why we have is because this nation provides the opportunities for every person to succeed based on their own merit. And we would hope that people would be encouraged by our story and quite frankly, encouraged by the stories of others that share our experience so that they would know this is the greatest country, still the greatest country on earth.
Yeah. Well, we are encouraged by your story, and I know many people are, but you're very aware of the debates that are happening around the country. Why do you seem to be less bothered by the sins of our nation's past, which are very real, than other people are?
Because I look at where we come from and I see how great it's actually made us. You know, I tell people this all the time. There have been terrible injustices that have happened in this country, terrible institutions that were in this country. We had the institution of slavery. Then we had the institution of Jim Crow. But those things never determined the direction of the country and its people permanently. When I hear the term institutional racism, and they say this country is institutionally racist. If this country was institutionally racist, we would still have slavery, or we would still have Jim Crow or some form of that. We don't. This country has always strived to ensure that everyone has freedom. And here's the thing. Here's the most glorious thing about it. We do it together. People of all different colors, all different religions, men, women, everybody. People of goodwill have come together to stop the injustices that have happened in this country, whether they be slavery, whether they be the issue of women's rights, no matter what it is. People of good character, people who believe in the ideal of America have come together to end those things. And we continue to strive to do the same today.
You know, there are lots of people in America who would say, Mark Robinson, good for you. We're happy for you. But here's the data. We know that race is still relevant in America. Things are different for people based on their skin color. And that just proves that America is still a racist country fundamentally. You don't share that perspective. What is it about you and your experience that has led you to look at the same set of facts but reach a very different conclusion?
Because everybody in their own community, so to speak, faces difficulties. But here it is. In America, it is not about it's not about what is on you, i.e. your skin color. It is about what is in you. When Black Americans faced the most virulent racism in this country, at that period during Jim Crow, when that was this overt racist system of Jim Crow was in place, Black Americans were succeeding in their own communities. They had their own schools. They had their own banks. They were overwhelmingly 80-90% of mothers and fathers in the home. And they were succeeding at a great level because they knew what was important. They depended on each other, and they did not rely on anyone else, i.e. the federal government, to swoop in and help them do anything. We have totally reversed that now. We have this ideology in this country that the federal government is everything up to, including mama and daddy. And we have just pushed excellence aside. So again, I refuse to go along with this ideology that this is a racist nation, because again, it is not about what is on you, i.e. your skin color. It's about what is in you.
Well, and I think there's a lot of evidence to support that as well. And your story is so compelling. I also want to spend a few moments just getting your thoughts on the political landscape that we are dealing with today. Some of the issues that are being debated. First, what are your thoughts on President Biden's proposal to, he would say, forgive student loans. Others would say bail out student loans.
I'm totally against the idea of not having these loans paid back. Now, here's what I am in favor of. I am in favor of restructuring these loans to make it possible for the people that owe them to pay payments that are not going to overburden them. I'm totally in favor of that. But when it comes right down to it, the bottom line is this: you took out a loan, pay it back. That's just how I feel about it. Also, along with that, we need to take a hard look at whether or not we should be giving these young people thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, and in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans based on no evidence that this will produce anything. Right. And so I think the entire system needs to come under the microscope to see what we need to do, not to necessarily forgive the loans, but to restructure it in a way that we find young people not being in this position to begin with.
I think that's a very fair point. It is indisputable to me that the higher education system is not functioning as it's currently operating, and reforms are certainly called for. And I hope this does start those conversations. Another question I have for you, another issue. Arizona just passed legislation that gives each child an education savings account with more than $7,000 per child that the parents can use at the school of their choice. Could be public, private, charter, even religious schools. Teachers unions hate it. What do you think?
Teachers unions hate it because teachers union are part of the cabal that's ruining education. We have to ensure that parents are in control of their education, their children's educational destiny. That has got to be the first tenet of any education system anywhere in this country. Parents have to be in control. And I think that Arizona's made a wise choice, and I think other states, including North Carolina, should follow suit. We need to make sure that parents are in charge of their children's education, not the teachers union or not any other entity.
Now, if Mark Robinson could make unilaterally one policy change, and we know he can't because you're part of a system, but if you could, what would you like to see changed in America or even in the state of North Carolina?
Gosh, that's a tough question. But I think if I had to do, if there was anything I could do right now in this country, I think the number one thing that I would do would probably be to secure our southern border. Our southern border being wide open presents a dangerous on every front. The fact that our border is wide open right now is making every state, every community in this nation a border state. We've got to secure that border for the security of our communities, our homes, our families, and for our nation as a whole. Other than that, there's a myriad of things that I would love to do, but we just simply don't have time to discuss them all here.
That is correct. We do not have time to discuss them all, but we're getting through some of them. Now, I would like your take on the speech that President Biden is going to give tonight. And of course, we haven't heard the speech yet, but we have had some indications of what this speech is going to be. The title, the White House says it's about, quote, the continued battle for the soul of the nation. And I think he's given us some clues about where this is going. Here's some excerpts from President Biden's speech last Thursday. Let's play clip 4.
Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans have made their choice to go backwards, full of anger, violence, hate, and division. And the whole notion of the burn it all down politics of MAGA Republicans continues to be a drumbeat. Well, the alternative to the Democrats are the MAGA Republicans. If the MAGA Republicans win control of the Congress, it won't matter where you live. Women won't have the right to choose anywhere. Anywhere. The MAGA Republicans don't just threaten our personal rights and economic security. They're a threat to our very democracy. We must be stronger, more determined, and more committed to saving America than the MAGA Republicans are destroying America.
Now, Mark Robinson, before you respond to that, Karine Jean-Pierre struck a very similar chord. I want to show the themes here. Let's play clip 10.
The president has been really clear about the leadership, right? The MAGA Republicans and leadership. They're the ones who have the platform. They're the ones who, again, the extremist part of the Republican Party. They're the ones who, folks listen to in their own party. And by inciting violence, by trying to take away, they're the ones who are the legislators and trying to take away our rights, trying to take away our freedoms.
Mr. Robinson, it seems that they are bending over backwards to say MAGA Republicans as many times as they can. It seems that the strategy is to get them to vote for Democrats by making Americans scared of Republicans. What say you?
I say this, let's go back and let's look at what MAGA Republicans, AKA the policies of Donald Trump, did in this country. We had the lowest gas prices we had in a number of years. Our border was secure. We were energy independent. Our enemies were basically hiding in their basements. They were quiet. We had peace in Afghanistan. We're ready for a peaceful, proud withdrawal from Afghanistan. But then let's take a look at what President Joe Biden has given us. He shut down the production of our pipeline, and gas prices spiraled out of control. He emboldened our enemies overseas by allowing the Russians to have their pipeline, which allowed them to browbeat their European neighbors with their powerful energy supplies. And now they're over in Ukraine. The Chinese are now hovering over Taiwan, and there possibly could be war in the Far East over that. Our enemies are more emboldened now. Our border's wide open. And they talk about violence. Not one time did you see MAGA Republicans burning down anything. They keep referring to January 6th, the one incident on January 6th. But what I want to know is, when is someone going to go after those left-wing Democrats, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, who staged over 700 riots across this country in 2020, took over major cities, burned police cars, wounded and killed police officers and civilians? The violence that they talk about is clearly in their camp. We have it all on video. And for them to actually have the nerve to say that it is MAGA Republicans that are violent is an absolute repudiation of the truth. Nothing can be farther from the truth, and we have to continue to fight back against that narrative, because we all know that the problems that exist in this nation now are because of their bad policies, and the violence that we've seen over this nation over the last 4 to 5 years has come from their side, not our side.
Mark Robinson, last question in about 15, 20 seconds. What's the future for you?
I cannot tell you that. I always tell people that this is like riding a roller coaster, and God is in control. So we'll see what he has for me over the next hill.
And we look forward to it. He is Mark Robinson. The book is We Are the Majority, available wherever books are sold on September 13th. Pre-order yours today. Mr. Lieutenant Governor, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, sir.